What's going on, everybody? It's just another day in the kitchen, back with another episode, and in today's video we're celebrating the 8th anniversary of Travis's Birds album by taking a look at the special merch that he dropped 8 years ago. Now before we get started, I want to give a special shout out to the homie Strain Beats, who's been cooking up the beats for these videos, so make sure you guys check him out. And while you're here, you might as well drop a like and subscribe and join our free Discord to stay up to date with the latest and the greatest. Shout out to all of my chefs in there. Now before we hop into today's video, I do want to mention that allegedly Travis Scott has edged out Sabrina Carpenter for #1 on the Billboard charts with his 10-year-old mixtape Days Before Rodeo, so you know we gotta celebrate with the Travis video today. And given today's the 8th anniversary since LaFlame dropped this now iconic album, I figured what better time to look back at this underrated and legendary era, as well as taking a look at some slept on merch I don't really see a lot of people talk about. So for the next portion of this video, we're going to see exactly what Travis's Birds in the Trap Sing McKnight merch drop looked like to the average rager and fan when it dropped 8 years ago. And if you have any favorite memories from the Birds era, let us know in the comments, because I've seen a lot of people mention that this was the first album to get them into Travis, and I'd love to hear what all of my chefs and ragers have to say. What's going on, everybody? It's just another day in the kitchen, back with another episode, and today's video takes us all the way back to 2016. Back when Travis Scott released his second album, Birds in the Trap Sing McKnight. And as you can see in this photo right here, LaFlame was going just as hard back in 2016 as he does today. Now the focus of this video is going to be reviewing the 2016 release of the Birds in the Trap Sing McKnight merch. And speaking of the album, my top 3 songs are probably Goosebumps, Outside, and Lose. Now back to discussing this greatness, as you guys can see, we are looking at the Birds in the Trap Sing McKnight merch drop all the way back in 2016. Now if you didn't know, the album originally released back on September 2nd, 2016, however this merch drop actually came 1 week before the actual album came out. And one thing you guys will notice right off the bat with this Birds merch is that there is a lot of repetition that we'll end up seeing throughout this actual collection. Now the cool thing is that the price is staying pretty consistent, and as you can see back in 2016 the tees were starting at $40. Now next up we've got these really sick Birds in the Trap Sing McKnight long sleeves, which upgraded us to $55, but personally I think that they're super hard. Now another thing I wanted to point out, if it's not already obvious from these first 2 pieces, is that we're going to be seeing a lot of bird and eagle related branding, given that the album is called Birds in the Trap Sing McKnight. And while we're looking at these first few pieces, I'd like to know in the comments which colorway you guys prefer. Now next up we're looking at the trap hoodies right here, which feature the title, again, Birds in the Trap Sing McKnight on the front breast. And I'd like to point out that I think $70 for a hoodie like this, although a little bit generic, is still pretty reasonable, especially for an artist merch drop. Now next up here we're going to be taking a look at some Birds hats, which I think are pretty hard despite the fact that they're really simple. Again, hats priced for $40 are pretty consistent with the way Astroworld merch hats were as well, and although the Utopia merch hats are a little bit more expensive, I know the quality has also increased with these over the last few years, so again I just wanted you guys to see. Personally, out of all of these hats, I'd probably have to cop this one right here or the one to the left of it, which I think would probably fit a lot of my outfits just a little bit better. Now we do have some of my favorite pieces of this collection coming up soon, and of course you could get the album cover tee right here for $40, which it's cool of course, but nothing too crazy. My favorite tees coming up are these right here, which are of course the Lightning t-shirts. And I remember these being pretty popular all the way back in 2016 and 2017 when people started wearing them to support the album. And if you didn't notice with the price, of course, for these, they bumped up by $5, which I don't mind given that there's a hell of a lot more graphic being printed on the tee, so it makes sense. Next up we've got some trap socks right here, which if you were able to hold on to these for all these years, I'm sure they would have some resale value, because personally I think that they're pretty hard, and who doesn't love a clean pair of socks? And it just goes to show you that all the way back in 2016 you could basically put together a full outfit and be fully fitted in Travis Scott gear. Next up we've got this dope Birds in the Trap Sing McKnight shirt, and one thing I want to remark is the merch back in the day was not the greatest. They were definitely printing on Gildan tees, which of course have gotten better with time, however back then they were not that great. Now we're taking a look at some more kind of novelty items, if you will, and for $40 you could of course pick up a Birds in the Trap Sing McKnight branded backpack. They had these 2 bandanas available here for $15, which I don't think I saw anybody actually pick them up, but I don't hate them at all, and there's a shout out to Texas, given that Travis reps Houston super hard. Now, following up that first backpack we just saw, we've got a black one right here that also features some sick branding from the album, and $40 for a backpack especially is pretty reasonable, I would say. Now we've got a dope little robe here for $100, and you know I would pick this up today if it was available, just so I could be pretending I'm on my Hugh Hefner-ish, you know, big pimpin'. Now we've got these dope boxers right here, which I would totally pick up today if they were still available. So LaFlame, if you ever watch this, or anybody from your team, holla at your boy, man. We got plenty of ideas. Now, something we haven't seen in a merch drop in quite some time for LaFlame is a beanie. So here you can see a Travis Scott merch beanie for a very reasonable price of $30, which isn't so bad. Now, of course, like I said, that bird, that eagle is all over this merch branding. So as you can tell from back in the day, Travis was definitely the king of merch. And this is before the McDonald's collab, before the Fortnite collab. Anything this dude touched was turning to gold. We're going to see a hell of a lot more random items in this drop. And also let me know if you guys would have also picked up any of the pieces that we've seen together so far. Like I said, we're going to see a lot of random pieces like a duffel bag like this, a pillow and a blanket that we're going to see coming up, and even something that you'd use in the bedroom, if you know what I'm saying. Now, unfortunately, I wasn't able to find a whole lot of information when it comes to resale when it came to these items because, like I said, this came out 7 years ago, and this was even before I think the platform StockX was even around, or it was just starting to get around, and they didn't even carry a lot of merch like that. Now, another big point I wanted to talk about is the fact that these merch purchases were not contributing towards the album sales at the time, which if you think about it is pretty insane. So the people that were really picking this up were really his fans and people that were interested in the pieces and people that just wanted to support him. Now, as we saw in the Astro World merch drop, we also got an ashtray, but unfortunately that's the only real big smoker related thing other than a Zippo lighter, which I think is pretty sick. However, I still would have liked to see some Travis Scott blunt papers or some rolling papers or something lit like that, if you feel me. Now we're coming up on the last couple of items here, which might be some of my favorite and the goofiest novelty items he's dropped so far, including that plushie there, this big ass flashlight you can whack somebody over the head with, and a condom that, like I said, you can use for the bedroom. So let's get it, guys. If you made it this far, like that condom said, thank you so much for tuning into this drop. I thought it would be really interesting, especially for people that weren't around or that weren't really interested in his merch or his music back in 2016. Now, if you made it this far in the video, thank you so much for watching, and I'd love to know what you guys think. I can't believe it's been a whole 8 years since the release of Birds in the Trap Sing McKnight, and although the merch itself isn't the craziest, I think it was just another natural continuation in Travis's long merch history, and I think it just adds to the rawness of the Birds era as a whole. So as always, guys, thank you so much for cooking with the kitchen, and I'd love to know what you guys think about this one in the comments, as like I mentioned earlier in the video, Travis's Birds era is very slept on, and I know I can't be the only one that feels this way. Now, as always, remember to stay safe out there, guys, and remember, it's lit. Straight up, and peace.